The year is 1177. Across the vast, sun-scorched plains of the Levant, a column of 3,000 to 5,000 Christian soldiers pressed forward through the oppressive heat, their destination the sacred walls of Jerusalem. The Crusader army marching beneath the banner of Baldwin IV was locked in a struggle on two fronts simultaneously, one against the rising tide of the Ayyubid Sultanate, and one far more personal, far more relentless, the slow, merciless advance of leprosy through his own body. At just 16 years of age, Baldwin was already a king, hardened by necessity, a young man who commanded his forces from a litter when the disease made riding impossible. His withered hands and ravaged flesh, a constant reminder that time was not his ally. Yet here he was, in the field, unwilling to yield to either fate or flesh. To the south and east, his adversary needed no such internal battle. Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, the unifier of Cairo and Damascus, was ascending. His ambitions were not merely territorial, they were theological, political, and personal. He envisioned himself as the champion of Islam, the man destined to reclaim Jerusalem from the hands of the Franks. He had spent years consolidating his grip on the surrounding Muslim world, and now, with a formidable army at his back estimated at somewhere between 20,000 and 25,000 soldiers, he saw an opening. The Kingdom of Jerusalem appeared to him a weakening structure, its king a diseased adolescent, its resources stretched, its defenders dwindling. Saladin crossed into Crusader territory, expecting to deliver a finishing blow to a kingdom already dying on its feet. Riding alongside Baldwin IV were Renaud de Chatillon, a man whose reputation for boldness bordered on recklessness, and the Knights Templar, that steeled brotherhood of warrior monks whose battlefield discipline was second to none in the Christian world. Together with several thousand infantry soldiers, Baldwin's entire fighting force amounted to roughly 500 knights and a few thousand foot soldiers, a fraction of what Saladin had brought to the field. By any conventional calculation, this was not an army that should have been seeking a confrontation. It was an army that should have been seeking shelter. But Baldwin had no intention of hiding behind walls. Instead, he moved with purpose. While Saladin's enormous force marched through the kingdom, pillaging towns and stretching itself across the landscape, the young king spotted something that a more cautious commander might have missed or simply ignored: an opportunity. Saladin's army, massive as it was strung out and disorganized, spread across miles of territory, his men plundering the surrounding countryside rather than maintaining battle formation. On the 25th of November, near the town of Montgisard, situated between Ramla and Ibelin, Baldwin gave the order to strike. The Ayyubid commander had not anticipated this. As word reached him that a Crusader force was bearing down on his position with speed and aggression, Saladin found himself in a commander's worst nightmare, outnumbered by his own chaos. The majority of his troops were dispersed across the surrounding terrain, deep in the act of looting and foraging. He could only recall a portion of them in time, and in doing so, he surrendered the single greatest advantage his force possessed: sheer numerical superiority. Frantically, his officers attempted to form the available men into proper fighting lines, but the task was incomplete, the formation ragged, the men unprepared. How did one of history's most brilliant military minds find himself so catastrophically exposed? Egyptian chroniclers of the era pointed to logistical failure. Reportedly, Saladin's supply chain had stalled at a river crossing, throwing the army's rhythm into disarray. Other historians have long argued that Saladin's real mistake was far simpler. He had underestimated Baldwin IV. A half-dead teenage king, barely clinging to his horse, commanding a token force. What threat could he truly pose? It was a miscalculation that would cost the Sultan dearly, and it would echo through history as one of the great cautionary tales of battlefield arrogance. Before the charge was ordered, something remarkable unfolded in front of the Crusader ranks. King Baldwin IV, whose young body bore the full weight of aggressive leprosy, his skin consumed, his fingers eaten away, his vision blurring, was helped down from his horse by attendants. He was lowered to his knees in front of the relic of the true cross, which had been raised aloft before the assembled Christian soldiers. There, kneeling in the dust of the Levant, the boy king prayed. What words passed between him and God in those moments, no source records. But when he rose to his feet, the assembled soldiers erupted in cheers. They had just witnessed something that transcended tactics and logistics. They had witnessed a man refuse to be defeated by anything, not disease, not odds, not the shadow of the most feared commander in the Muslim world. On this day, become the man you were born to be. You have it within yourself to write your own legend. Let it be to death, or to victory. Baldwin climbed back onto his horse. There was no turning back now. The Knights Templar, flanking the Christian heavy cavalry, spurred forward in a thundering shot charge, aimed directly at the heart of Saladin's disorganized formation. The impact was catastrophic. Steel and horsepower drove straight through the center of the Ayyubid lines, cleaving the Muslim formation in two, and shearing apart whatever cohesion Saladin's officers had managed to assemble. The Crusader infantry followed close behind, pouring into the breach opened by the knights. What followed was less a battle than a slaughter. The Crusader soldiers, fueled by fervor, by desperation, by the image of their king kneeling before the cross, tore through the Muslim ranks with ferocious efficiency. Men who stood their ground were cut down without mercy. Saladin's soldiers, scattered, confused, many still returning from their pillaging, watched in horror as their comrades collapsed around them in waves. Officers screamed orders that could not reach their men through the din and chaos. The dying piled upon the dying, and still the Franks came, pushing deeper and deeper into the Ayyubid mass, carving a path of destruction that refused to slow. At the center of the catastrophe, Saladin struggled to impose order on a situation that had spiraled far beyond order. The tightly ranked soldiers around him represented the last coherent resistance. His generals, men whose names were known throughout the Islamic world, fell in the fighting, slain by Frankish blades as the Crusader advance reached deeper into the Ayyubid lines. For a terrible moment, the Sultan himself was nearly surrounded. Only the intervention of his personal guard prevented what would have been a world-altering capture. Saladin fell back to the protection of his elite force, 1,000 Mamluk cavalry, the most disciplined soldiers in his entire army. These were not conscripts or plunderers. They were professional warriors whose loyalty and battlefield skill were unmatched in the region. They formed a wall between their sultan and annihilation. But even that wall could not hold. The Frankish knights, rallying once more alongside the Templars, launched another charge directly into the Mamluk formation. They broke through. In the chaos that followed, Saladin narrowly escaped death, abandoning his horse and fleeing on a camel as the battle collapsed around him. The rout was total. Saladin's army, which had entered the kingdom expecting an easy conquest, disintegrated into a panicked retreat. Some attempted to regroup, most simply ran. The Crusaders cut them down across miles of retreating ground, capturing prisoners, recovering treasure, and seizing the entirety of Saladin's baggage train, a haul that represented not just material wealth, but symbolic humiliation on a grand scale. When the dust finally settled over the blood-soaked fields near Montgisard, the full magnitude of what had occurred became clear. Saladin had been handed the worst defeat of his career. The man who would go on to define an era had been outwitted, outmaneuvered, and outfought by a 16-year-old leper. The Kingdom of Jerusalem, written off by many as a state in terminal decline, had survived against odds that no reasonable military observer would have given any chance of success. The Battle of Montgisard did not end the war. Saladin would return, regroup, and ultimately, a decade later, take Jerusalem. History would remember him as a colossus. But it would also remember this day. It would remember a boy king, lowered to his knees in the desert dust, praying before a wooden relic while his ruined body burned with disease, then rising to lead 500 knights against 25,000 men and winning. Baldwin IV would never recover his health. He would be dead within 7 years, his body destroyed by the illness that had shadowed every day of his reign. But on November 25, 1177, he was something greater than his suffering. He was, for one extraordinary afternoon, invincible. The Battle of Montgisard stands as a monument to what courage, discipline, and the willingness to act boldly in the face of overwhelming odds can accomplish. And as a permanent reminder that history, more than anything else, belongs to those who refuse to accept the terms others have set for their defeat.